so so he had you muted, that's why we weren't getting feedback before. So we thought we were good.
Thought we were good and we went.
Now we're good.
Okay. Oh, cell phone.
Might need two mics.
Mike, do you miss your boat?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, once the kids are up and growing out of the house,
Yeah.
kind of loses its purpose a little bit. The one I do miss, Jake sold his fishing boat a couple years ago. That was the one I would occasionally miss occasionally.
Yeah.
Can't
You
you
got
buy
another-
one of those to turn upside down on your camper?
I guess you could. Jill wants a kayak or two. But...
Mine has a kayak rack that mounts.
Oh, does it? Awesome. Yeah.
You can fish out of one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or park on a bridge and fish out of your camper.
That's right. Just so I don't start backing my camper down the boat ramp, expecting it to float.
My kids officially cost me $95.47 a month more now. Once he gets a job, he'll start paying me back. And he's unrestricted driver.
So $100 a month?
$95.47 increase, yeah.
That's the going rate about it.
Yes, I was gonna say, $1,200 a year, that sounds like you're going right.
Yeah. All right, I got 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call the June 16th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. Start with roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
Hanamichael.
Here.
Ritter. Lane.
Here.
Here's Councilmember Ritter is absent.
Okay. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of our minutes from the council meeting of June 2nd, approval of pay ordinance number 928, approval of fireworks display permit, approve temporary use permit for Reach Church. Can I just add this approved pay ordinance 928A as well?
I think you can, yep.
And unless there's any discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda, including pay ordinance 928A.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There is a 4-minute time limit. Does anyone wish to address the council? Please come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Sure, thank you. Hello, my name is Shane Wolferding. Address is 37580 West 87th Street. 7 years in DeSoto, so relatively new, moved in from the city. Question or comment, curious about, with the we're on the north side of K-10. Curious about what's going to occur, but I know what, I have some bearing, some comprehension of some of the warehousing scenarios that are going to be on the 103rd, the sunflower ammunition plant. What I'm curious about is what's in the near, or maybe slightly distant future on the north side, near 95th, in that area. And I guess to be blunt, am I going to be seeing a Panasonic battery plant sometime in the near future in my backyard?
What's your address again?
37580 West 87th Street.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, Mayor, if you want to
Yeah, I mean,
briefly address,
I would
touch on
Sure.
some of the questions there. No comment at all about any particular project. There's still non-disclosure agreements that we're under the chamber. You understand that. You might be aware in January we annexed 6,000 acres of the Sunflower Army Ammunition Facility. Largely that's south of 103rd Street down to 127th Street. So that's 2/3 of that entire property. So we annexed that. We also annexed 370 acres of property west of Edgerton, north of 103rd, that's bounded by K-10 highway, all south of K-10 highway. We have a development agreement with the developer on that property for a light industrial development, largely, large-scale light industrial development there. We also have a pre-development agreement with the owners of Sunflower to form an economic incentive district that will help with the cleanup of the property. And we've been actively pursuing economic development opportunities of varying sizes and scopes, large and small, on both of those. The zoning is in place for the site closer to K-10. They will be starting infrastructure improvements, and they're started grading. You saw this week, they started mass grading the site. Infrastructure improvements related to that will be the reconstruction of Edgerton Road between K-10 and 103rd Street. That'll be noticeable. We're also extending water and sewer service to the site. Similar story on the Sunflower side. Currently, in terms of your backyard, there are no current plans for any of that sort of development in the foreseeable future north of K-10. Our future land use map, the long-range comprehensive plan vision for our community doesn't envision any of those types, that scale of use north of K-10. Largely, it envisions some commercial or mixed use around the interchange potentially, and mostly residential uses north of K-10 in that area. As you know, across the street, across Edgerton Road, you have the county-owned the parkland. So, that's the Cliff Notes version. I'd be happy to spend some time with you and go into that more detail if you want to come by City Hall. Yeah,
Great. Awesome.
happy to do that.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you for-
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone online, Mike, that might wish to comment, you see?
No, it's just us online.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on from call to public. Item 3, old business. We have none, so we'll go to item 4A. Consider task orders for engineering consultation services related to economic development in the Southwest Growth Area.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Shane, maybe this will shed a little more light. I think a little more time will be spent on some of the plans here than we were able to just give just a second ago. Council, as you know, there are it's likely that large-scale resident or light industrial uses will be present at the Flint site and at Sunflower site in the near future. And we are in a position to begin implementation of the public improvements that will be needed to support that development in conjunction with the developer on the Flint site and also in conjunction with the developer on the Sunflower site. We've discussed, recently we onboarded 4 on-call engineering firms to handle just various consulting engineering tasks for the city. And we are now in a position to put those task orders, issue task orders for a couple of those consultants to start the process of helping us through these public infrastructure efforts. Attached to the staff report, the first exhibit is a map of the public infrastructure that will be needed to support both the areas. I'll run through that just quickly. I know you're aware of these. The area here in light blue is Flint Commerce Center. That's the area that's annexed and zoned, and we have a development agreement in place for there. This area in the hatched orange is the Sunflower Army Ammunition Facility. In the solid orange shade is roughly the area that's currently been remediated to the point, environmentally remediated to the point where we can market and deliver on economic development HAD sites, of course in cooperation with the developer. So the public improvements needed to support these development are really cut into 3 categories for the city anyway: water, sewer, and road transportation improvements. We know that we're going to need to expand our treatment capacity at the water treatment plant and at the sewer treatment plant. And we're going to have to extend sewer service to both sites that does not exist now. So the sewer service extension includes constructing a gravity line around the Sunflower, up the Sunflower Road corridor from the treatment plant that's along 79th Street up to 95th Street. And it includes 2 regional pumping facilities. One will be near the interchange of Edgerton Road and K10. The other one will be east of Lexington Avenue along 95th Street. From those regional pumping facilities, gravity sewer lines are needed to extend to each development site. On the water side, we're going to need to increase the capacity of the water treatment facility, which involves increasing capacity of the well field, and some improvements at the water treatment plant itself. We'll also be constructing an elevated water tower at 103rd and Sunflower, roughly in that area, and extending a few lines up onto the Sunflower site. Remember that the Gabriel site is currently in the water service area of Water District 7, so they will be the water provider on that site. So in terms of the city's projects, all these, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't touch on the road infrastructure. I mentioned Edgerton Road reconstruction from K10 to 103rd Street to an arterial standard, 3-lane standard, 1 lane in each direction, turn lanes where necessary, and bike lanes in each direction with a multi-use path along the west side. Also to be reconstructed is Lexington Avenue from 95th Street southward until it turns into 103rd Street, and then continuing that project on 103rd Street all the way out to Evening Star Road. That reconstruction will involve a 4-lane divided arterial section, 2 lanes in each direction, a median section of varying width, bike lanes in each direction, pedestrian access on both sides of that facility. So those are the projects ahead of us. A lot of work to be done, somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million worth of infrastructure improvements. Of course, we have developers that will be initiating some of those. All of this, by the way, will be funded by the revenue streams generated by projects on the 2 sites. So essentially, funding plans for these do not involve any current tax mill levy, any current capital funds from the city, or really any current sources that we have now. So in order to implement these projects within the time frame that is needed by the economic activity, we're going to rely on design build, alternative, well, some sort of alternative delivery method. We just don't have time to hire a design consultant, get the thing designed, then go out to bid, and then issue bidding contracts and do that. That timeframe just doesn't work. So we'll be doing some sort of a design build procurement process on all of these. In terms of the city's responsibility, the biggest effort for us, the project that we'll be in charge, largely in charge of, is the treatment plant expansions, both the treatment plant expansions. We are going to be initiating that design build procurement process. We'll be the owner, we'll have an owner's representative, but we're going to hire the design build. We'll select the design build team to go and do that. We're going to have to oversee that project, those projects through to the completion, and that also includes the water tower as well. The other projects, the sewer extensions and the transportation end projects, will be undertaken largely by the development teams. So the development team for Sunflower will be hiring their own design build team to construct the sewer lines that are that you see in orange here. Line up Sunflower, the regional pump station along 95th, force mains, and the others, gravity main serving their project site. Similarly, the Flint development team is engaged with a design build firm to construct their sewer improvements, which involve regional pump station there at K10 and Edgerton, the force main, and the gravity sewer line up to their site. Similarly, the design build teams for both of those developments will be undertaking the transportation improvements that I outlined. Flint itself will be implementing the Edgerton Road project, and Sunflower team will be implementing the Lexington Avenue and 103rd Street projects, largely. So our role in all of those, all the stuff that the developer is doing, essentially, in its most, probably the simplest form, we're treating that like this is a, yes, it'll be a public infrastructure. It will become ours to own, operate, and maintain at the end of it, but the developer's gonna put that in, and then we'll take it over once they're done. So that's kind of how we've always done subdivisions. You know, the developer puts all the streets in, the water, sewer, everything. During that process, we review the plans, we make sure we inspect the project as it's being constructed, we do the final inspections, we make sure all the contractors are paid, there's no liens against it. Then at the end of all that, we take ownership of it. We're treating the transportation improvements and the sewer line improvements in that manner. But we're gonna, because of the scope and scale of what's going on, we're gonna need assistance internally to do that. And so we're calling on a couple of the design build on-call engineers to help us with that. So toward that end, I've generated this Exhibit B on the staff report, and this is just a matrix of all the things. I'm not gonna go over it. It's in your packets. If you have any questions, we can talk about it. But everything I just described is kind of in the top section of this infrastructure related to these industrial developments. And it's broken down into sewer, water, and road improvements. So largely what I'm asking, I've asked HDR to take the lead on the design build procurement for our water treatment plant expansion in the water tower. So we have a task order that I'll ask for your approval for that. I've asked George Butler and Associates to do the same thing on the sewer improvements, and then also George Butler to serve as our owner's, kind of our owner's rep to oversee the sewer improvements that are going to be performed by the developer design build teams. I'll be asking, likely it'll be BG Consultants, but it might be GBA, just depending on workload and discussions with them. We'll need a similar owner's rep sort of task order for the transportation improvements as well. That'll be performed by the development teams. So, you know, things like construction observation, you know, approving any sort of change in the design plans as we go along, helping us review the design plans and making sure it's to our specifications. materials approvals, all those sorts of things that go along with administering those from the city standpoint. The transportation stuff will come later. The other thing that we found a need to pretty early on, as we're holding these joint meetings talking about the role of public infrastructure ahead of us, when we go to expand the water treatment plant and sewer treatment plant, we need to know how much flow these projects will ultimately demand of the water and the sewer system. That's a tricky thing to do when you're talking about light industrial developments, because there's light industrial that doesn't use a lot of water or sewer. The Amazon, the distribution warehouse stuff doesn't tend to generate a lot of use with the sewer or water, but some production manufacturers do. A food producer or something like that might have a big demand. So it's difficult to really nail down what the ultimate demands on the system will be. It's therefore difficult to size the sewer pipes and size the water pipes, but probably most importantly to size these treatment plant expansions. So I've asked HDR, one of the task orders is to take charge of that whole discussion, because it really is, nobody knows what the economic opportunities are going to be. There's a few of them that are in the works that might be, we could kind of put into a spreadsheet and count on, but beyond that, 6,000 acres is a lot of land, and 370 acres is a lot of land, and we just don't know what opportunities might exist. So somebody has to kind of take that, get the city involved, get the city council, possibly the planning commission. We need the developers to be involved, and okay, what are we thinking? Regulatory agencies, KDHE and the Division of Water Resources in terms of water rights and discharge permits, things like that. That's kind of a whole world of things, and it's got to come down to, my goal for that is in 15 years, when people look back, whether the projections are right or wrong, at least they can see that, okay, there was a reasonable thought process that went through this, that decided this and that, with engineering judgment is a term that comes up with that. So that's another one of the task orders. So the rest of the staff report, exhibits C through F, are these task orders that I've just kind of described. I won't go through those word for word, but in our on-call engineering contracts, we have the base contract with all 4 firms, and the process is that when we identify a project, that project gets the scope of that and the ultimate fee gets identified in a task order. So these task orders are really just the scope and the ultimate fee. Within our kind of framework for that, we've set the maximum fee for those at $50,000. So you'll see each one of these task orders has a $50,000 price tag associated with it. That's largely because we need to get these consultants engaged and working on these things. There's a lot of stuff that'll need to be worked out in the course of designing and building these things. That we just don't know what the ultimate scope might be, but this will get us started for the next 6 months, and then we can evaluate as we move forward with these. We can evaluate the resulting needs as they come about. I've also identified that the funding sources for all these will initially this year, we'll take it out of the CIP because we have $400,000. A $400,000 item in the 2022 CIP for, it's kind of a blanket item that just says infrastructure in support of economic development opportunities, and this fits that squarely. So initially, these efforts will be funded by that. Eventually, though, these efforts need to be rolled into the project financing plan for each one of these tasks. So, for instance, the water treatment plant expansion, we're expecting that's going to be somewhere around $8 million. At this point, that's the best estimate that we have on that. This design fee is part of that. We just don't have that mechanism yet. We'll probably issue temp notes. There'll be permanent financing later on. We're not going to do that until we have firm commitments from end users about how much water they're gonna buy, because those improvements will be ultimately be paid by revenue streams from selling water. Same thing on the sewer. For the project management tasks, the oversight of the sewer and the road connections, those will be paid for out of project funds, from construction observation funds within the funding plan for those projects as well. So in the end, the intent here, maybe with the exception of the task order to HDR to establish kind of a master plan for the ultimate flows, will not be items that necessarily hit our capital improvements plan. So, but for now, we do have an urgent need to get started. And we have been, these consultants they've been performing work under these task orders at my direction, for reasons that we've discussed before. So I want to stop there. I don't think I've missed anything. If I did, it sure took me long enough to miss something. We have 4 task orders for your approval. If we could get separate motions to approve each of those. And I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Mike?
So I'll start. They'll go into effect right away then and start, or did they come back to us yet?
Yeah, no,
They come
this-
back,
No, this would be in effect after you approve it, and they'll continue the work and.
Because you've included the proposals and essentially they're not the form of agreement, but you've got their documents included in the packet.
Yeah, so the task orders that I just described are in the packet. The formal agreement was when we first got it on.
These are just task orders against
Right.
that, but the breakdown for each of these is in the packet.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
And so there's 4 of them at 50,000 each,
that's right,
so 200,000 total.
yep.
And that's 3 task orders for HDR and 1 for GBA.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve task order for HDR for procurement services related to water treatment plant expansion and water tower construction projects.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Michael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'll make a motion we approve task order for HDR for services related to future projections for water and sewer demands in the Southwest Growth area.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I make a motion that we approve task order for HDR for grant and capital funding application support.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdock.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I make a motion we approve task order for GBA for procurement services related to sewer treatment plant expansions and for project management services related to Southwest Growth Area utility coordination and sewer main extensions.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Michael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item B, consider bids for well upgrades.
Yes, council, on the theme of treatment plant capacity upgrades, we approved a design contract with GBA to completely rehab 2 of our water wells on the south side of the Kansas River. These are completely, we'll drill new wells, abandon the old wells, but they're generally on the same site of 2 existing wells. We need this because the 2 existing ones have their yield has gone down, which occurs sometimes As you pump a well, the screens get clogged up, the aquifer immediately surrounding the well gets, just the yield on it decreases. And so identified this need last fall and have been designing it. We recently bid out the project. We received 3 bids for that work. The low bid is Rice Chick Drilling Company for a total of $904,239.38. This is significantly higher than what we had anticipated last October, a reflection of the volatile bidding environment that we're in. We did not design Cadillacs here, so we do not think that a value engineering process will result in any better bids in any time in the near future. So
There's no value engineering digging a hole in the ground, is that what you're saying?
there's not a whole lot. That's not a whole lot else. We're not building new buildings. These are they have a platform for the control equipment to get it above the floodplain, but there's nothing fancy here. So we do have an immediate need to increase the treatment plant capacity. This will be part of the ultimate plant expansion, and I think this funding can certainly be rolled into the bond issue that we initiate for that project. So the immediate funding will come from the contingency line item in 2022's capital improvement plan. There's $1 million contingency line item in that. So immediate cash funding will come from that. Eventually, we will probably reimburse that CIP with the ultimate funding plan for the expansion of the facility. So recommending to accept the low bidder and asking for your motion to approve that bid.
Okay. Questions for Mike?
So this project is, when you're doing your dollar totals for the Southwest Growth Area, this was included in that, or is this basically raising that by $5 million?
Well, no, not exactly. When I said that we thought the treatment plant expansion cost about $8 million, this is included in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's a yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the reason why, because before it was like $5 million.
Right.
And so we're gonna need to do 4 more of these, so.
And these are rehabbing 2 of our existing ones?
I wouldn't call them rehab, so they're
But I mean,
2 existing sites.
That we're currently using.
That we're currently using.
Yeah.
Because do we have access to some that we're not currently using?
We, no, we don't. We have 6 altogether, all currently being used and all in service. There's 6 more that Sunflower owns that the Army put in the 40s and we have in the 70s. With our agreement with Sunflower, our 2004 agreement for the transfer, we can get 2 more wells, 2 more of those if we wish, if we show the need, and that'll probably be part of the expansion discussion.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering, was I
Yeah.
thought we had access to 2 that we weren't currently using, but
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have contractual acts, if we show the need, we can make use of 2 more.
but these are existing ones
Yeah.
that we're talking about at this point.
Any other questions? Motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
We don't need to do it, correct?
No.
Okay.
Danny, I think, Danny pointed out to me earlier in the day that the GBA letter references 4 bids that were received. The recommended award letter, there's actually only 3. So I think that was what you were referring to, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if you would correct that or.
Yeah. No, it's still, the low bidder is still.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion, we award the project to Rice Chick Drilling Company with a total bid of $904,239.38.
And I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Lane, Yes.
Carmichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, item C, consider bids for curb replacements in Demeadows.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Before I get started, I'd like to appreciate everybody who pointed out my two errors in the staff report. The project is at 88th Terrace, and Freeman Concrete is the low bidder. So with that, we did put this out for bid. We received 4 bid pricing. 3 of them were pretty tight together. Freeman Concrete was significantly lower. I have spoken with them. They feel confident that they can do the project for that price, so I'd like to proceed with them. They have done some work actually quite a while ago in the city, prior to my time. Have confidence that they'll be able to do the project well. The project amount with contingencies, $123,167. This would come out of our street maintenance fund. And this would take care of this would be the 3rd item we put out for bid for contractor work. The first one being the overlay Explorers Trail, which I put in the staff report, Valley View, Golden Lane, stormwater replacement, and then finally the curb work in the Meadows subdivision. So that takes care of our work that we'll be putting out for bid. And then we will have our street department doing some asphalt overlay work after. We kind of do the contractual stuff first, and then we reshuffle a little bit and see what we've got available for our street department to do in-house overlay work. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Brad? A motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Freeman Concrete, base bid in the amount of $117,302.25 with a 5% contingency to complete the 2022 curb replacement on 80th Terrace for a total amount not to exceed $123,167.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdock,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Item D, 2023 budget discussion.
Yes, council, that's my item. We just, yesterday, or was it a couple days ago?
I got it on
received-
Tuesday.
Yeah, we
I don't know.
did receive the final valuation numbers from the county. It was after I'd obviously done all this. Not materially different, not gonna make really any difference in any projection that we've got here. I think we wound up with a total valuation of around $108 million assessed valuation. The final valuation came in about $1 million less than that. So it's an immaterial difference. But regardless, I did want to update you on some work that I've done since our initial discussion on the budget. I was able to incorporate the Parks and Rec Department for the full-time specialists for personnel for that position in the Parks and Rec Department, and we've added the annual $25,000 allocation for a public art fund. And I was able to do that without changing the mill levy that we presented to you at the initial meeting. And the reason I was able to do that, I got a little less conservative on our franchise fee estimates in the years in 25 and 26 and beyond, and a little less conservative on the mill rate that we need to support the debt service fund. I think I mentioned, I don't know how much detail we went into it or if you remember, the debt service fund's been pretty healthy, and there's really no reason to maintain year-end fund balances in the debt service fund. All we do is collect the money and go and pay the debt service for any particular year. There's not a lot of risk that those costs are going to be more than we anticipated. So there's not, in our financial policies, we don't have this 30% buffer requirement for the debt service fund. Just really not a need for it. So I was able to kind of shave a little bit off of that mill levy. The mill levy for the general fund did go up from what you saw before, but I was able to shave that off of the mill levy for the debt service. So I wanted to just give that to you. What was in your staff report are the newly projected 5-year budget projections for the general fund. Haven't done anything with the water or sewer fund, since the last time we talked. General fund still looks like this. We still have big balance expected, or big balance. Had big balance at the end of 21. Spending that down a little bit this year, a little bit next year, and then thereafter this curve flattens out to meet our 30% fund balance target in the out years. That's always kind of the way we like to see that. Here's the law enforcement fund. We did get, I think we had the estimate from the law enforcement fund last time. So general flat mill levy. This is another one that's not a big reason to keep a great big balance in. So. And then the debt service fund is where I was telling you, last year we levied 4 mills. We're knocking 2 mills, 1.4 mills off of that, because you can see these fund balances. That's largely a result of the sales tax collections being so strong. A portion of that sales tax goes straight to the debt service. This also assumes that our sales tax referendum that's due here on the 20th passes. If that doesn't pass, then this doesn't apply. So that's a big part of it. That's a big caveat. I should have a big asterisk up here on the debt service. But the existing 3/4 cent sales tax continues under this scenario. That was it. So the mill levy picture, it's kind of small, hard to see, but in essence, we're lowering the mill levy by more than about 1.5 or 6 mills. Valuations went up 13%. Inflation's up 8%. So we're really kind of taking advantage of the assessed valuation for the inflationary portion of that, but we're rolling it back. We're rolling the rest of that 13% back. So in essence, what we're doing is making ourselves whole because of the inflation. And inflation numbers for next year are all kind of scattered throughout the budgets, between commodities and contractual, and fuel is another one. So in your packets also are the detailed budget spreadsheets that we'll incorporate into our budget document. You hadn't seen these before, but this gives you the line item breakdowns of all those. And at the next meeting, we'll go into further detail about exactly what's in these numbers. We'll true up with the final valuation numbers for from the county. It's still clear that we're going to exceed our revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral rate is 19.7, 19.8?
19.9, I'm looking at it right now, 19.94.
19.94, and we're at 20.7. Yeah, 1.7. So we will be exceeding that, as will, I think, without exception, every other city in Johnson County. So that's it. Happy to have further discussion on that, answer any questions you might have about that.
All right. Questions?
Yeah, I think we had a discussion, and maybe this might be a minor item, might have been in council report or staff reports or something, but we talked maybe about considering bringing right-of-way mowing in-house since the costs are up and the quality's not as good. Have you massaged that into the budget? Because, that'd be some staff costs and equipment purchases, correct?
Yeah, have not done that in the budget. My thought was we set the budget number at what we paid this year plus some inflation. And if we can do it cheaper, we'll figure that out over the fall.
Okay, so you'll do a comparison to see if it financially makes sense versus just budgeting it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Under the assumption that the council feels like, I guess I shouldn't make this assumption. Is there a chance that the council would want us to bring those services in-house even if they cost more than we could otherwise contract them for?
Well, might it be though that it depends on whether you lease mowers or buy mowers, I guess, would be one of the questions. Because you may have a higher upfront cost if you have to go buy, three or four mowers?
Yeah. I think we normalize that out, whether we buy them or lease them.
Okay,
we probably spread those payments. We borrow from the electric reserve fund like we do,
and
kind of
treat it like a vehicle payment, essentially.
Yeah.
So
you'd
amortize it in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
We try to apples as best we could with that, so that the 2023 budget doesn't look like it's costing $1 million to mow, and then think we could level that out for us. You know, the benefit would be, even if it costs more, we'd have to hire we're looking at hiring 2 people? Is that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
would
what we
be,
decided?
yeah, we had some, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We had some preliminary discussions, because basically these people would be split between parks and streets. We're not sure exactly what that would look like in an FTE count, but essentially we'd be hiring two, potentially 3, probably 2 people in a seasonal that would be doing all of the mowing throughout the city, with some exception of some contractors doing some of the more difficult spaces, the stuff you wouldn't normally see that would be further off the road. Just kind of looking at preliminary, it doesn't make sense. It's actually cheaper for us to go out and have someone contracted do it. Now, if we come back and we get bids that are even significantly higher than what we had this year, it may be something we look at bringing in. But we were looking at it, and it's probably about somewhere between 40 and 60,000, depending on the kind of mowers you get and how you massage the numbers in the whole each year over what we're spending right now to mow.
Well, you know, one thought would be, and it may not be next year, and it may be 5 years from now or never, but if, given the infrastructure plans that we're looking at, you're gonna have, you're gonna have a boulevard that's 2.5 miles long that is gonna significantly change our right-of-way maintenance picture regardless. You know, you're probably gonna have 3 more miles of improved roads to maintain, and it would almost seem like if it could be done with a couple of people and a couple of mowers rather than the contractor coming in with 6 mowers, you know, kind of blitzing it every couple of weeks. I don't know, you have to look at the cost, but I think we're gonna have more to maintain.
Yeah, I think the policy decision that I kind of wanted to point out was, I think the plan would not be to hire seasonal employees. The plan would be to hire permanent year-round employees who could be doing other stuff from October to March or whenever. So that's the added benefit. Even if this costs more, that would be the added benefit, where the council might make a policy decision that, we do want to do that, even though it's going to cost more. So
Well, it could be offset as well by some reduced overtime costs during plowing. You know, if you have 2 more guys 2 more people in that plow cycle, then maybe that's a few hours less overtime that we're paying for on the current staff, and a more happy workforce that's doing that stuff.
Yeah, and the level of service. You know, we feel confident. I mean, we can certainly be more responsive to mowing issues as they come up than we can be now. So maybe it's a service level discussion, that makes a policy discussion. I think it seems like, just talking through it here, it probably does make sense to, let's have this discussion within the budget time frame and make a decision, you know, based on, you know, more information than we have now, but be able to make a better decision on that from a policy standpoint, even if it might cost more. Because my initial thought was, we'll put in the budget what it would cost to contract it, on the assumption that if we could do it cheaper, we would, and then if that happens, then it's no harm, no foul. But now that there seems to be some support for considering it, even if it might not be cheaper, let's go ahead and see if we can move that time frame up a little.
Okay.
Any further questions from anyone on them? So at our next meeting, you will have the updated numbers reflecting the final valuations and.
Yes. Yep. There was in the initial draft, there was some personnel stuff that we hadn't completely nailed down yet. So there'll be some
other tweaks.
But I'll have, my hope is to have the water and the sewer stuff in more final format, have those budget spreadsheets for you, start on the budget narrative so that we can identify where we want to, within each line item, kind of how the money's going to be spent.
But our hearing won't be until September, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Is that right, Frank?
Yeah.
We have a day or two, correct?
Yeah, we have more time than we're used to having.
Yeah.
Mike, can you remind me 2 different areas, without me digging through here? Added employees, how many additional employees this is adding, what new employees? And how much have you put into this to work on improvements to City Hall for added space for any of these employees? Is that included? Do we have any money in here for that?
Well, so.
And
the
if not, do
employee-
we need to?
Right. No, there's nothing in here for 2023. Now that'd be capital improvement stuff. And so we probably do need to address that need within the capital improvement plan. And that's part of the budget discussion this year. Of course, the recreation specialist is one added employee. Brandon, help me. I don't.
So
City engineer?
Yeah, okay, yeah, there's a restructuring.
restructuring of, yeah, so what we're doing is we're taking Ron Creason's position, because he's planning on retiring at the end of the year, taking his position and restructuring it, is probably the best way to put it, into a city engineer position. And then there'll be, one additional street worker, and I think that's it off the top of my head, if I remember correctly.
But there was like 4 new employees then? For some reason I was thinking.
So the restructuring doesn't actually add a person. It just moves that to a different, so we're backfilling that with, I guess it does add one person. I think we're just looking at 2 people.
So it's backfilling, the street position, because we're making that new, essentially the assistant to the city engineer position that we talked about. And so, yeah, that's it. So it's this
And
engineer.
then just that.
Yeah. And then it's the parks person here.
I'm sorry I have to do this. I don't want to tell you wrong.
I probably can pull it out of my bag down here.
Potential of additional inspectors, is that accounted for or not accounted for? at
No,
this point?
not here, not yet.
So the engineer,
Yeah, so
public
it's the
works
city
director is
engineer
one person.
position, and another street maintenance tech.
Yeah.
This public works operations manager is a new position, but will be we want to promote that from within the street department. So this would be a backfilling. So this looks like 3, it's actually 2, but we've added the Parks and Rec person. So there's 3 new positions. None of that to this point of the budget, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, maybe adding some contingencies on the expense side and on the revenue side for the potential of a big economic development project occurring. So I think it's probably worth some discussion, maybe getting something in the budget about contingencies for inspectors, for more street techs, for a more administrative utility building type positions, just in the chance, just to have it in the budget, and also include a contingency, offsetting contingency revenue stream from that too. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea.
That's what you're getting at, yeah.
Yeah.
This assumes none of that's happening. What you have, the budget you have in front of you assumes none of that's really happening, so.
If you remember, we have the org chart we talked about in April, where we kind of outlined, Mike, I believe that was April 7th, if you want to pull that up. But that's where we kind of outlined what we were thinking. So there are, in that plan, future inspectors, there's additional staff in the street department, the water department, but,
Okay.
yeah, it was just as we grow, essentially.
Yeah.
So then to your question of space, so we would have 2 new workers in this building, is that?
Well, so
Or will
the
the director or
initial,
the-
yeah, the initial plan for the city engineer, public works director is to put him out of the street department shop. I think long-term, I'd want that position here.
Yeah.
And so that would be the renovation of upstairs. I think, talk to Jay a little bit about it, getting a group together to kind of master plan. We have the master plan, but we need to look at that again.
Yeah.
See, because we need to know what the chamber, what their needs might be, chamber EDC. And then there's no sense renovating a square foot up here unless you do it all. I mean,
Right.
If you want to put a single person up there, you gotta have bathrooms, you gotta have sprinklers, you got HVAC, the whole work, you know, so you just as well just do it all, and have that space available.
I guess my whole point on that is we've talked about all of this for a long time at the upstairs. I know we have to have funding, but I don't see that there's any way we're going to get around needing to move forward with that sooner than later. And so, you know, I don't know what we have to do to try to start to work it in CIP. And, you know, like you said, I mean, if that's going to take its own little bond or something, whatever we have to do to get that done, I think it's going to, it needs to happen. I mean, and so I think that, you know, whatever we have to do to get that into 2023 at least is the starting point. I don't know how we can keep dancing it with where we're at.
Well, you're right. There's just a lot of.
We've got so many projects.
There's a lot of strategic planning, strategic plan items that are gonna be going into this budget.
Yeah.
And a lot of unknowns associated.
There's, yeah.
Some placeholders type of thing, you know? Yeah, exciting stuff.
Well, but some of them are pretty important because we see this year that finally that $400,000 placeholder for for infrastructure and support of economic development. We need, you know, now we're able to use it. So some of these placeholders are important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Well, that was great feedback. Thank you.
Item 4 for the second time is executive session, which we don't have any, right? So it's good numbering.
It's a good number. I put the agenda together. It wasn't Brandon this time. He was in Italy. Don't blame him.
Advisory reports. Mike, you want to carry on?
Well, yeah, you know, and Brandon, I don't know if you were going to bring up the 2 events that we have before the next council meeting. So one being the concert series kicks off tomorrow night in the park with Garth Brooks impersonator. Impersonator tribute.
Tribute.
You don't call him impersonator when they just play the music. He might look like Garth.
No, he does get the whole.
He does the whole
yeah,
get up.
Yeah, if you look at the agenda item, when we kind of approved it, and you click on the website, he's got the whole Garth Brooks feel, the boots and the button downs and everything. So yeah, it's
good.
Full on Garth Brooks.
That and the 4th of July event will be before our next council meeting. 4th of July is on a Monday this year, and that's when our event will be.
Okay.
That was it for me.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Patrick?
Nothing for me.
Thank you. Brad?
The only thing I might add, Mayor, is the Explorers Trail project is set to begin Wednesday, so or you should get a door hanger soon. Okay, all right, so
All right.
it will begin.
All right, thank you. Brandon, anything for the group tonight?
Just that if you still have your sales tax ballot, drop it in the mail either tomorrow or there's a drop box at the library because we're running up on it. The deadline is the 21st at noon. It's got to be to the elections office. So we're I don't know if Whitney did today, but I know she said she's going to do this afternoon or tomorrow. Do another push. And we're going to do another one over the weekend to make sure we get those last couple ballots out. So.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Council comments. Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Oh, just one. The guys in the streets did a great job. I got a call from Clora up the hill on 85th Street.
Yeah.
That little tree or bush that grows up there where you stop on 83rd was there, and then she called me next afternoon and said it's gone. The bush is gone. They mowed the entire Cedar Creek area down through there, did a great job, and they took care of all the stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you to the street department. They did good. They took care of the problems almost before they were reported. So thank you.
All right, I'll pass that along.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor.
Represented DeSoto at the Johnson County CERI, the County Economic Research Institute board meeting on Tuesday. It was an interesting discussion that all the area EcoDevo directors are still reporting a lot of robust activity. Looked like our sales tax, they had the first quarter sales tax numbers. Looks like the growth has kind of slowed on our sales tax a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's still nearing double. I mean, it's down to 7.5%.
Yeah.
8%. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's slow.
It's doing
I
okay.
guess. Yeah.
And then, of course, there was a lot of discussion about housing and just how tight the housing inventory market is and how slow new housing starts are going. So I felt kind of good about, how things are moving here. We've got homes going up, and we don't have a lot of complaints about their city governing body being an obstructionist to economic development opportunities. So I feel good about that.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Lori?
I don't think I have anything. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Rob?
Nothing tonight?
All right. I have one thing I just wanted to share, and it's kind of hard. We had the tragedy here on a Friday night. A person lost their life, and I just don't know what to say to that family, just express my sympathy. But I was just so amazed at the outpouring of support from our community for that family after that event, and it just makes me proud to be from DeSoto and to call this my home. It was just amazing the level of support for those folks, and I know it maybe makes it a little easier, but it certainly doesn't make it easy. So I just wanted to share that, and that's all I have tonight.
Mayor, to add on to that, there was a family that lost a lot of things in a fire recently, and there's been a lot of support for that family too. So I think, you're right, our community does step up.
Yep. Thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.